I want to welcome you to our 2014 Prom Promise Assembly. As you know, we've been spending some time this week talking about driving under the influence and distracted driving. Hopefully, many of you during lunchtime have gone over and signed a Prom Promise pledge and received one of our Prom Promise bracelets. This assembly today is to help inform you a little bit more about the dangers of both distracted and driving under the influence. Many people from both our school and our community have worked together to make this assembly possible. And I would like you to please be on your very best behavior and give all of our speakers your fullest attention. Car accidents touch many of our lives. I know personally I've lost a loved one in a car crash. My mother died 6 years ago due to one. I know many of you have lost friends in car accidents. So I know this touches all of us deeply. And we are doing this today because we care. We care about you. We don't want to lose anyone else. I certainly don't want to lose any of you. Without further ado, I'm going to turn the presentation over to Lieutenant Bill Lobley from the Queen Anne's County Department of Emergency Services.
Thank you, ma'am. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. As the principal said, we've spent a lot of time putting this presentation together for you today. So what I want to start off with is one little trivial fact. Can I get you to stand up, please, ma'am? Can I get you to stand up, sir? Can I get you to stand up, sir? Can I get you to stand up, ma'am? Ma'am? Stand up, please. Sir, can I get you to stand up? Okay, I don't want to leave the room out. You know, I want to give everybody a fair chance. Young lady, can you stand up for me? You're doing a nice job of distracted texting, so let me get you to stand up. Number 2013 varsity. And the gentleman with the hat in the red shirt, stand up for me, please. Ladies and gentlemen, let me explain something very quickly. The reason I have these 9 people standing is because by the end of today, 9 people in the United States will have died from distracted driving. 9 people. You realize last year over 450 people were killed because of distracted driving. 450. Think of how many people you have in these 2 classes. That's a lot of people. Everyone, please sit down. Thank you for your help. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, I am going to present to you State's Attorney Lance Richardson, who is going to preview a presentation of a trial.
Thank you, sir. I'll take your microphone.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning. My name is Lance Richardson. I'm the state's attorney for Queen Anne's County. Welcome to my place of business, the courtroom. The trial you are about to witness today is the result of a traffic accident, what we actually call a motor vehicle collision, that occurred on Saturday, May 17th, 2014, approximately 7:30 p.m. In this incident, 4 teenagers from Queen Anne's County High School were traveling southbound on Route 213. It's a head-on 2-way highway. They were just outside of Centreville. Their vehicle crossed the center line, struck another vehicle head-on. The driver of the vehicle with the high school kids was a senior named Bob Smith, an 18-year-old student. The other vehicle headed northbound was a family of 4, the Jones family. 2 children, mother and father. There were 2 fatalities out of this collision. Janet Jones, The mother of 2 children was killed on impact. The 18-year-old driver also had a 18-year-old friend, a passenger, Jane Doe, who was killed as well. 2 other people suffered serious life-threatening injuries from this collision, which required one of them to be flown, or both of them to be flown to Maryland Shock Trauma for treatment. The initial investigation of this accident cited distracted driving as the possible cause of the crash, as well as excessive speed. They suspected the teenage driver, 18-year-old Bob Smith, was texting at the time he crossed the center line and struck the Jones family vehicle. He was also driving at a speed of 70 miles per hour in a 55-mile-per-hour zone. Please join me in the courtroom today as the lawyers make their case for the prosecution and the defense of the driver who was involved in this collision. Once this is completed, the sentencing will be handed down. I'm going to now turn this over to the first attorney, the prosecutor.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we have proven beyond a reasonable doubt that Mr. Jones was texting his friend at the time of the accident. His actions were grossly negligent and directly resulted in the death of his friend, Miss Jane Doe, and a mother, Mrs. Jones, and resulted in serious injuries to the remaining passengers in both vehicles. As you have heard several witnesses testify, Mr. Bob Smith was traveling well above the posted 55 miles per hour speed limit and distracted while communicating with his friend and not focusing on the hazardous road conditions brought upon by the heavy rain. This was not the first time that he had sent text messages while driving. He admitted that he often sent text messages while driving, and his mother said that she was aware of his use of the phone while driving. This accident could have been avoided had Mr. Smith left his cell phone where it belonged, in his pocket, and obeyed the posted speed limit. His conduct was grossly negligent, and you should convict him of the charge of vehicular manslaughter. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the government has proven nothing beyond the fact that my client had been driving on a rainy night and was involved in an accident similar to many others the very same evening, 2 of which were on the same road. He had admitted that he had responded to some texts from his friend, but at the time of the accident, his cell phone was not even on his person. He had tossed it to his friend in the passenger seat. The road conditions were not ideal, and you heard testimony that my client had asked his passenger to let his friend know that he could not text while driving in those conditions. It is terrible and unfortunate that Miss Doe and Mrs. Jones were killed and several others injured in this accident. However, Bob Smith was not negligent. He was just a kid taking his friends to the prom on a rainy night. He was being as careful as he could be while driving on a rainy night. Well, I think you should find my defendant not guilty of the charge in this case. Thank you.
Madam Forelady, has the jury reached a verdict in this matter?
We have reached the verdict. We find the defendant guilty.
Thank you. If you could please record the verdict. The court will now sentence the defendant for the offense of manslaughter. The defendant will be sentenced to a period of incarceration of 10 years to the State Division of Corrections. For count 2, manslaughter, the defendant will be sentenced to a period of 10 years to the Division of Correction. The court will suspend 5 years of that 10-year sentence for a total sentence of 15 years to serve. There will also be a $5,000 fine for the first count and a $5,000 fine for the second count. Upon release, the defendant will serve a period of 5 years of supervised probation and will complete 500 hours of community service, which will include addressing the dangers of distracted driving. Thank you. To you, the seniors and juniors in the audience here today, unfortunately, this scenario is an all too common occurrence. We've put a lot of effort into explaining the dangers of drinking and driving to you, but now we find that distracted driving is causing just as many deaths and serious injuries, crippling injuries, and manslaughter. You don't have to have any intent to kill anyone. But if you're on your phone, just like the scenario is pointed out, and you cause someone's death, you can get up to 10 years in prison. It's a felony conviction, something that's never going to be off your record, something that will follow you and haunt you for the rest of your life. And that's what we want you to consider going into this prom season, going into summer vacation, that it's not that important to answer that text right now. You can put your phone away, leave your phone off while you're driving. The lives that you're going to save, you'll never know, but I can assure you that tragedies like this happened down on Kent Island last year. We lost 4 young men in this community, and that's what we're asking you to consider. No one wants to be a part of a trial like this. If I can call Sheriff Hoffman over here briefly to explain to you, there's also been some changes in the law that affect you. I know how much you guys love your Instagram, Snapchat, and everything else. Sheriff Hoffman, first of all, can you please welcome the sheriff? Sheriff, if you can explain briefly the new Jake's Law that's going into effect October 1st and the penalties associated with that.
Thank you, Lance. Every single day, every one of you drives by somebody that's holding their cell phone and using their cell phone. Every single day, as they see a police officer or they see someone, they put that phone down in their lap like it's not being seen or used. However, in one split second, your whole world can change just from distracted driving and not paying attention. Maryland law prohibits the use of cell phones. Maryland law also prohibits the use of texting while driving and using a cell phone anytime you're operating the motor vehicle. October 1st, a new law goes into effect called Jake's Law. Jake's Law is a law that will carry 12 points, 1 year in jail, and a $500 fine for any time that you're involved in a crash that involves the death of a person. This case, this law will actually help seal some of the civil litigation lawsuits that may be presented against you, as you've seen here today. Once the conviction is taken care of and done, this young man over here now faces civil litigation in a whole nother arena of court. All the time we get, well, I'll delete the text, or I'll throw the text or the phone to a friend. Nobody will know that I was texting and driving. I'll clear the phone or delete it. However, in investigation phases that are done by the state's attorney's office, Lance Richardson, and our office, we obtain those phone records. Not only do we get the hour that you were on the phone, the minute you were on the phone, the second you were on the phone, we get the duration of the call. How do we compare this evidence at the crash site? Most vehicles have black boxes that record data in the vehicle that records speed, braking, and other things. We compare that information to the time that those texts were made or that phone call was received to assist us with the conviction. Hopefully, no one will be texting and driving. As Lance Richardson said, put that phone down so that you're not in violation of the law.
Thank you very much for your attention here today. You're going to now go out and view the crash scene and move to your next phase.
We have another segment of the assembly that we still need to share with you, and this next part I think you're going to find especially moving because we have some families that have been touched by distracted driving that are going to speak with you.
First off, I want to thank you all for your undivided attention outside. And what I'd like to do is take a quick moment to introduce everybody that was participating outside. First off, I'd like to introduce the Queen Anne County Sheriff's Office, their school resource officers, the Centreville representative from Centreville Police Department. Can I have the fire companies come out? We have representatives here today from Goodwill Volunteer Fire Company, from the Churchill Volunteer Fire Company, the Crumpton Volunteer Fire Company, Queen Anne County EMS, we'd also like to thank Fellows Health and Bond Newnham for participating today with the hearse for their part of the scenario. And last but not least, we'd also like to thank all of our portrayers today of the incident. So I'd ask you to give them a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. It took a lot of planning to get this all together. I want to specifically thank the members of the Goodwill Volunteer Fire Company that helped coordinate all this with the other fire companies in the county, and along with Queen Anne County's EMS, their participation, along with the drama department from Queen Anne County High School. Once again, thank you all very much, and I appreciate your time, and thank you.